welcome back to my channel for another Plan With Me video. This month's theme is inspired by this book called Color Scheme by Edith Young. I found it at the library and really had a lot of fun looking through all of the different color palettes that it has. This particular page is what inspired this month's theme, and it is a mountain theme, as you'll see in a moment. But this book has a lot of great color palettes, and it also has an area in the back where you can find the CMYK values of the different palettes. So I used that as a reference and just made a little mood board that you can see on my iPad there on the left, and then found markers from both Tombow brush pens and Crayola Super Tips that fit that color theme and kind of the mood that I was going for this month's theme. To start this theme, I first sketched out the calendar, which is vertically 4 spaces and horizontally 6 spaces per day. I like this layout because it allows you to have space to write tasks and events, but it doesn't take up the entire page, so you have space for doodles or trackers. I also added this washi tape in the top left, and I didn't want to waste the tail of the washi tape, so I used December and put that down in my space where I already have planned for next month. I'm just using the small Pitt Artist pen for the inner lines. I had used the medium for the outside, so there's a little bit of a line weight difference if you're seeing it in person. And then since I messed up the line on the bottom there, I decided to add some drop shadows. I realized that I haven't used drop shadows in a really long time, and I might need to bring those back because they're a super easy and simple way to add more texture and definition. Now I just opened back up my iPad to my mood board that I had made and started sketching out some simple mountains. The original idea for this theme was to have the colors be very light and faint and not too saturated, but then that didn't end up working out too well. You'll see in a minute that the method I was trying to use didn't really work out the way I hoped for it. But anyway, here I am just making the trackers. I decided instead of having my usual grid type tracker, I would just make a little box for each week where I would do an overall weekly overview. So that's what I'm doing here. I just drew a line across the top and I left the bottom blank for each of those boxes. So it's kind of like an implied box. And then I use the small Pitt Artist pen to outline the standard habit trackers that are over on the right hand side of the page, as well as writing the dates for each of the weeks over those little boxes. I used the Tombow brush pen N60 to draw in some clouds, and then I used several different colors for drawing in the mountains, and this is kind of when I was like, wow, these colors aren't working out the way I hoped they would. So I tried to use the Tombow colorless blender, and that didn't work super great. I tried to both use the blender directly on the marker as well as putting the marker down on that little piece of glass that you see that's actually the lid of my candle. And that didn't work super well, so then I just got a watercolor water brush pen, like the ones that hold the water in the barrel. So then I just used that brush to pick up the color off of the tips of the markers and kind of watercolor it onto the mountains. This was not at all what I had planned. I was trying really hard not to use any more watercolor because I used a lot of watercolor earlier this year, but here we are. So then I just got the Tombow N89 marker, which is a light tan sort of gray, and I just lightly drew over all the mountains to help blend them a little bit better. And then I got the Crayola Super Tip, the avocado-ish colored one. They don't have any color names on them, which makes it really hard, but I just used that to write in the dates on the calendar, and then I watercolored a little bit more purple up in the clouds. Moving on to the next spread, I decided to do the first week a very simple weekly spread, so I just divided each of the pages into quarters, and then I drew these mountains in one of the sections. I don't know why I picked this section, it just seemed like it would be interesting to mix things up and not make it one of the corners that was the extra square. Then I used this calendar washi tape that has the days of the week, and I just put those on each of the sections and added this quote that says, "Climb the mountains not so the world can see you, but so you can see the world," over the mountain drawing. I also added a section for a task list in each of the days except for Sunday, and in Sunday I put an area at the bottom for gratitude. So one thing I did want to talk about a little bit this month, as you're watching me set up this next weekly spread, is that when you're creating things, you don't always love what you're creating. And I know it can be really easy to see artists or other creators, especially with social media now, and you see what they make and you just think, wow, they must always love everything they draw. First of all, I'm not a professional. I mean, I know I sell some of my art, but I'm not a professional, and there are definitely times when I hate the way that my art is turning out. And this month's theme was definitely one of those times. I really hated the cover page when I finished, and I ended up coming back to look at it later that day, and then I was like, oh, this isn't bad, I kind of like it. But yeah, so if you're starting out bullet journaling and you hate all of the themes and the spreads that you're making, that's okay, that's normal, that's totally understandable. Looking at some of my first notebooks that I tried to bullet journal in, they're not very pretty. But you know, at the time, I did what I was able to, and I did what I had the skills to do, and they worked just fine. If your bullet journal is functional, that's all that really matters. It doesn't have to be Instagrammable. It doesn't have to look like a professional full-time artist made it. Just do what is pretty and what you enjoy, and that is more than enough. Okay, so basically those weekly spreads, I just made a section that had a task list for each day and then journaling space for each day. So I believe this is the last weekly spread then. I am making it where it goes across both of the pages, each day does, and on the left side of the page I used the Faber-Castell Pitt pen to draw the lines between so they're black, and then on the right hand side of the page I used the different markers that I have been using throughout the theme so they're colorful, just to add a little bit of interest. The left side of the page again is going to be for different tasks, so I put in a bunch of checkbox washi tape stickers and I just drew some lines for them to kind of make it more interesting. Then on the right side I have space for journaling, gratitude, and highlights of the week. There's actually another weekly spread that I forgot about, so this is a similar layout as one of the ones that I did earlier, except for instead of having a section for notes and each of the days, I have on the left side Sunday through Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday on the right. Then I just have a large section. This is partially because I counted wrong, but also because it's the end of the month, so I just put in December there, and I'm going to use this space just for notes or upcoming tasks that I need to complete in December. Here is the final flip through of this mountain-inspired November theme. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time.